everyone, it's Bree with Wedding Planner Bree. I am going to go ahead and start my Wednesday weekly wedding planning sessions. I will be trying to post every Wednesday some kind of different topic so that you get to, see my face, see me a little bit more, but also so you can learn a few things about the wedding planning process, especially if you are doing it on your own. I kind of want to put out some resources for you to successfully be able to do it on your own. So this week, what I wanted to talk about first was going to be hiring a wedding planner versus planning the wedding on your own. So I wanted to start with some pros of hiring a wedding planner. Obviously, the biggest one is their experience. They've been doing weddings for sometimes decades. I have seen myself probably every situation that could ever happen at a wedding. And mind you, I've only been doing this for a few years. I have seen the cops have to be called. I've had to call the cops personally on some people. I've seen people be late to their own wedding. I've seen the uncle doing cocaine in the bathroom. I mean, you literally as a wedding coordinator see it all, because even if you're at a wedding, you don't always see everything, but if you're the coordinator, you at least know everything and have to deal with those situations. So experience really comes in handy, obviously, when trying to deal with those situations. It also comes in handy in good situations. So obviously we plan weddings before. We know how a ceremony is supposed to go. We know how the reception is supposed to go. We know how to do a timeline. We know how to do the floor plan. We know how to create a guest list. We know how to do all of those things already. We're not having to learn how to do it as well while we're trying to plan the wedding. We know how to handle each situation because it's been thrown at us already. Whether that is something bad happening, we're having to call the cops, etc., or whether it's just planning a wedding and we just know what we're doing because we've done it before. I personally have probably done at least close to 100 weddings. Mind you, I've only been doing it for a few years, but that's a lot. That's a lot of experience in only a few years. So imagine these people who have been doing it for decades sometimes. They have so much experience in wedding planning that you won't have to worry about any of those crazy details because it will be handled for you. So that's probably the biggest positive pro to hiring a wedding planner. I would say second largest pro to hiring a wedding planner is their network. They have a network of vendors who they work with, have worked with, know very well, who they can recommend for you. And oftentimes when they do recommend, so say I recommend somebody to one of my network of vendors, a lot of times those vendors might even give you a discount or might even work with you on your budget, or, oh, hey, Bree sent you. Okay, that means that, we should try to work with you as much as possible, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times also, I'm only really suggesting other vendors who I know are going to do a good job. I have worked with vendors who, unfortunately, I don't even know. I've had to DJ, essentially, a wedding myself because this guy had no idea how to DJ. I was the MC, as well as trying to coordinate everything. So obviously I don't want to recommend that guy to be your DJ. So I'm only recommending people or companies that I know are going to do a good job, which when you're planning a wedding on your own, it's not so easy to find vendors who you know are going to do a good job. As much as you vet them or talk to them or, try to make sure that they're going to do a good job, sometimes it just doesn't happen. So I always recommend, certain people who I know are going to do the best job for you and make the wedding, work seamlessly. All of the vendors have to work together to make this event, pan out. So why would I try to recommend somebody who I know is not going to do a good job? Because that's just going to make my job harder too. But also I want the best for my client. When you are planning your own wedding, you don't have that. You're hoping this vendor is going to do a good job because you're not going to be able to go and MC a wedding in the middle of your own wedding. So I'd say that's probably one of the largest positives as well to hiring a wedding coordinator, is they have that network of vendors who they know are going to do a good job for you, the client. I would say that it is worth it to hire a coordinator, even if it's going to cost you a little bit of money, because the stress levels that it's going to cause you trying to plan a wedding are a lot. I know that, it causes me a little bit of stress, I'm not going to lie, but it's my job. Obviously, I'm being paid to do that job. It's not, oh, I'm working a full 40-hour week, maybe more, and then also trying to planning a wedding on the side. That 40-hour a week, it's more. But is my job. So it's not like I'm stressing to plan my own wedding and work a job. That is my job. I plan the weddings for you. But another thing that will help with your budget is having a wedding coordinator who has dealt with budgets before and can keep your budget in track. A lot of times, obviously, most people haven't been married before, so they don't necessarily maybe know what everything's gonna cost. They don't know how to make a budget. They don't know how to keep track of the budget and make sure you're not overspending. They don't know to have a little extra cushion in there because usually something comes up where you're gonna need a little bit of cushion. You know, hiring a wedding planner might cost you a couple $1,000s, but it might save you a couple $1,000s in the end if they're keeping track of your budget for you and you're not gonna be overspending the entire time. Obviously, the stress issue is huge when planning a wedding. A coordinator or planner essentially takes on the role of planning your wedding, right? I mean, you don't have to worry about a lot of the small details because this person's gonna be handling that for you. Whereas, like I said, if you're working 40 hours a week and trying to plan a wedding on top of that, then it's gonna be a lot of stress for you. Instead of having somebody like a planner who is going to take on that stress and, you know, deal with those vendors and deal with any mishaps that happen, you're taking that on all yourself. And it's not gonna be easy a lot of the time, and you're going to, you know, be arguing with vendor, blah, blah, blah. I mean, there's just so many things that could happen that you just want to make sure when hiring a planner as well, they're fit to handle all of those issues. You wanna make sure they have a rapport. You wanna make sure that they have other clients, maybe even that they can refer to you so that you can make sure that they're good as well. But if they're good, they will take a lot of the stress off of you when planning a wedding. They basically deal with all of the vendor confirmations, finding your vendors, helping you find a venue. You know, they can literally help you with anything. Obviously, it will depend on what system or what plan you set up with your planner. Some of them do all of it. Some of them only do certain parts. Some of it just do day of coordination. So obviously you need to make sure what happens, what, you know, each person will be doing before you hire one, because you need to know what parts you're going to need to take on versus what parts they're going to be taking on. But they will be taking a lot of stress off of you, even if it's just day of coordination, because you don't have to worry about all of the things going on that day. They will take care of any mishaps or any, oh, this is late, oh, this person didn't show up. That's them. They take care of that for you. Versus if you're doing it yourself, you're, you know, trying to get dressed for your wedding and trying to call, you know, the DJ who hasn't shown up yet. It's not going to be very fun. It's going to be a little bit stressful. Obviously, they also oversee any technical issues throughout the day. So I know myself, I am in charge of the entire day. I get there before everybody. I leave after everybody as well. I, you know, set up, decorate. I have the timeline. I run the timeline. I make sure everyone's where they're supposed to be. I'm keeping track of all these people. I'm making sure food's out on time. I'm making sure all the drinks are there. There's a lot of moving parts on a wedding day that a lot of people may not even realize because they obviously don't plan weddings all the time. There's a lot of moving parts. And so if you don't have somebody to kind of control those moving parts, it can be stressful or a little bit challenging at times. I know that there are sometimes DJs who take on the role of trying to MC and keep everything going, but they're stuck at the DJ table. They don't have time to run over here if somebody forgot something. The bouquet's in the bridal suite, go get it. That would be a coordinator or a planner running to go get the bouquet to make sure everything is where it's supposed to be. So, you know, I know as a planner myself, I also help them set up the seating chart. I help them set up the floor plan. I mean, there's so many things that a planner or coordinator does for you that if you do it yourself, you'll have to learn how to do it. I myself have a floor plan software so that it makes it a lot easier and I'm not having to try to figure out how to make a floor plan or draw a floor plan. It's all digital, it's all really easy to use. But if you're not a wedding coordinator, obviously you probably don't have that software. And so you're doing research, trying to figure out how to make a floor plan. Whereas if I'm doing it, I've already made it, it's done. That's one less thing you have to worry about. And then, I mean, I would say another huge pro to having a wedding planner or coordinator is the emotional support. I mean, I know I have had to be there for some brides through a lot. Sometimes it's very difficult dealing with family dynamics in a wedding. You know, that's another moving part, is just dealing with family, right? Obviously there are a lot of people who have divorced parents who might not get along, or, you know, there's an uncle who doesn't get along with people, or being there as emotional support, kind of as an outsider. You know how you can go see a therapist and you talk to an outsider and it kind of helps because they're not in the situation, they have an outside perspective. That's kind of what a wedding coordinator does as well. I know I've been there for brides because one of them, their fiance, soon to be husband's mom, was causing havoc right before the wedding. So she was upstairs in our bridal suite crying, and I had to go in there and kind of, you know, be that emotional support for her, calm her down. It's gonna be okay. It's not your mother-in-law you're marrying. I know it's gonna be hard, but you know, you kind of have to like talk people down occasionally because there's all this high stress going on at the same time. So then dealing with family issues on top of that, sometimes things will explode. And so it's also the job of a wedding planner or coordinator to kind of be that emotional support person as well. That is one huge thing that I've always offered as a wedding planner for my brides, is the emotional support as well, because like it's, even if I'm planning the wedding for them, it's still a stressful time, especially like I said, dealing with family dynamics. Let's get into some pros of planning your own wedding. So obviously cost. You don't have to pay for a coordinator. You can have family and friends help for free. Oftentimes they do want to help for free. So that is obviously a pro. Like I said, a con to that could be you don't have the vendor network that you need, the discounts you may get from that. You know, there's multiple cons kind of to that as well, but we just went over the pros, so cons are the opposite of that. You will be able to have your hand in everything. You will be able to control the entire situation. A lot of times when a coordinator or planning planner takes over, they kind of, obviously they still ask your wedding vision. It's your day. They're not just going to completely take over and do what they want, but they find the vendors for you. They do this, they do that. You're not actually sometimes a part of that decision or meeting. And so if you really want your hand in every single part of your wedding, you can still do that with a planner, but sometimes it's hard for them to do their job if you're getting in the way like that. So that, I mean, if you want to be able to have your hand in every single part of a wedding, planning it yourself might be the way you want to go. It also will feel more personal because you plan the entire thing yourself. You put the blood, sweat, and tears in, you put the heart in. It will definitely feel a lot more personal if you plan your own wedding. Your family and friends can step in and help a little bit more. Obviously, moms usually want to help a bunch. Dads can help build things if you're doing a little bit of DIY. Bridesmaids, maid of honor, groomsmen, you know, best man, sisters, brothers, siblings, grandparents, whoever wants to step in can step in and help. You are just going to have to be the ringleader, essentially, telling people what to do. So that can be stressful as well. And then another thing that I always do mention is some venues are all inclusive. So some venues provide a day of coordinator or wedding coordinator or wedding planner. So sometimes you want to find a venue before you find a coordinator. So that way you kind of don't hire twice. Say your wedding venue already has a day of coordinator included, but you already hired a day of coordinator. Well, now you have 2 day of coordinators that you don't need, but you already signed a contract with the other day of coordinator that's not included in the venue. So it gets a little bit confusing. So I always tell people, make sure you check with your venue on exactly what they include first. Because like I said, oftentimes, especially now, I know in the area where I live, at least a day of coordinator is kind of included. You know, somebody who's working with you at the venue, maybe helping you with the floor plan, the seating chart, etc. That's kind of all I have. If you have any other questions, please, like I said, feel free to leave questions in the comments and I will get back to you. And then also let me know if you want to, you know, see something specific, if you want me to talk to you about something specific. You guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.